morning, Falcons. It's Wednesday, and today we are going to be learning about our school and our district response to some of the events that have been happening around the country. And then we're also going to do an activity where we create a sign of support to hang in our windows or to display in a public space. So, first up, our announcement. Before we get into our regular advisory rhythm, we're going to share, linked below, a letter that the superintendent of the school district wrote to all students, all families. Staff members have also seen it in response to the scenes of civil unrest across the country. And LaVenture Middle School is really committed to the message of this letter, and we want students and families to really continue to connect with you about it. We want to listen to you, we want to engage in dialogue with you about these hugely important topics like power and racism, civil rights, and protests. So linked below, you can see a full copy of the letter in English and in Spanish, but there are just some points that I wanted to highlight here instead of reading the whole thing to you. So in the letter, it talks about the right to peacefully protest and how that's part of the foundation of our country and the Constitution. It also talks about institutional racism and the district's commitment to address this head on within our schools, including by having really hard and also respectful conversations with one another, which again is something that even in this weird distance learning, we want to do that with you students and families. We want to engage in this hard and uncomfortable dialogue with you. And then also, the letter really talks about this super important difference between expressing our opinions and then crossing a line that goes into harassment, intimidation, bullying, or threats. And especially in an online setting, we know that the desire to type and click send and maybe not think about the impact of our words can be really significant. So I'd encourage you to read this letter together as a family today when you can, or to read it and talk about it when you're ready, and then reach out. We want to connect with you. Students, again, we also just want to emphasize for you, we're here to listen to you and talk to you about what's happening in our country, and just, reach out to connect. My email's below. All your teachers, I'm sure, would love to talk to you about what's going on, so we're here. Okay, with that in mind, our greeting today is our physical challenge greeting. So make sure that you do something to get your heart rate up, push-ups, plank, jumping jacks, go for a little walk, and then say hello to at least 3 people. So I'm going to challenge you today to think about people who you maybe haven't connected with in a little bit. Sometimes the things that are going on in our world can cause us to reach out, and other times they can cause us to be a little bit inward and isolated. So set a goal for yourself. Who are 3 people that once you get that heart rate flowing, you want to check in on and just spread some goodness in their day? I think I've talked on here before about my grandpa. I know I need to reach out to him. It's been a little while, so he's on my list. And then a few other friends who I know are feeling just really impacted by what's going on in the world. So I'm going to reach out to them today after I get my heart rate flowing. I want you to pause the video, do that right now, and then come on back when you're ready. Okay. Our sharing today. So since school has closed, what types of messages have you seen or heard that help you to feel inspired or hopeful? Or you also might want to share, again, we're asking this every day this week and beyond, how are you feeling? What are you thinking about with everything that's going on in the news around protests in our country? So again, question 1, since school is closed, what types of messages do you see or hear that help you to feel inspired or hopeful? And, or question 2, what have you been seeing, hearing, what are you feeling about what's going on in our country right now? What questions do you have? So I really encourage you to engage in dialogue with someone who's around you. You can text a friend, call somebody. You can always comment below or go over to your Google Advisory classroom and check in there. Okay, our activity today, after you share, make sure you do your sharing. It's so important. So we're going to think about making a sign of support. This has been popular around the world since the COVID-19 pandemic began to impact many communities. So we are going to be charged with making a sign to show support for our community. So I don't have a lot of coloring materials here where I live, but I'm gonna get a pen and a piece of paper, and I am gonna write a big thank you in as big as letters as I possibly can for hospital workers in my town. And I'm gonna post that on a window or on the outside of my door. I live close to the front of a street, and I actually know some of the hospital workers who live near me like walk on my street to go to work, so I'm hoping that they see it. So you can think of like an uplifting message. You could post it somewhere visible for others, and the idea is it's meant to be like a beacon of light, right, for other people to see. And so your steps are going to be the following. Number one, think about someone that you'd like to support. So maybe it's a neighbor, friends, frontline workers, and so on. Number two, you'll make your sign with any art materials that you have. Again, like for me, pen and paper is going to work great. I'm just going to write really large. And then third, if you want, we'd love to see your pictures. So you could just take a picture of your sign on your Chromebook, on a phone, and then drop it on your advisory Google Classroom. You could email it to me. I'll share it on Friday. And you might also want to include some details about the motivation behind your message, and then how you hope others will feel when they see your sign. It might feel like something small, but I tell you, when people see these signs, it really uplifts their spirit. So, Falcons, let's do our part. Remember, be respectful, be responsible, show pride. We miss you so much, and we'll see you back here for Online Advisory tomorrow.